shift the way you lead, the way you live. Clarity, courage, change. Because your next level won't wait. This is Monday Mindshift, the clarity you've been craving, the shift you didn't know you needed. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Monday Mindshift. Happy Monday. What is that? It's the third week of August. Let me look. Yes, our third Monday of August. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Thank you for joining. Just going to adjust my camera a bit because I switched to standing desk, so things are a little different. All right. So welcome. I'm Sean Michael. If you don't know me, but you probably do, go ahead and drop in the chat where you're watching from. And if this is your first time, let me know. Looking forward to hearing from you. As I've said before, I don't know you're here without those comments because that's how the system works. It tells me maybe two people are watching or one person is watching, but that's all I get. So if you're here watching, and if you're here live, you can put live, tell me where you're joining from. I'll see your comments come in. Or if you're on replay, let me know. I realize some people are able to carve the time out to be here live. Other people have to catch the replay later because of what's on their schedule. So I respect that. I appreciate you. And I'm glad to have you here. Whatever you're watching, live, replay. And as I said, just let me know where you're joining from. That tells me, or say hi or whatever. Give that a few minutes before I jump into the teaching. I'm also curious. Okay, so it's just a little lag, a little delay on LinkedIn. Invite your friends, share it on your feed, anything like that. All right, I don't want to sit here for too long, so I'm going to just go ahead and jump in. Last week, I asked you one question, right? Who's driving? And I got a really honest answer. Maybe the most honest answer I've seen in a long time. They said, I don't know who's driving, but we're going somewhere. I've been kind of mulling on that for the whole week. Because my question is, how often is that true for us, but we don't say it out loud, right? It's kind of the thing people are experiencing, but they're not admitting it to themselves or even to another human being. And in my discussion last week, it was an outward look, right? At the machines, the tools, the thing everybody's talking about online. But today, hey Rob, today I want to turn it inside at the mechanism within us. What I've come to believe is that we don't stop driving our life because we get careless. We stop because we get good. So here's a little scenario, a little small. I'm sure you'll understand it. You've probably experienced it. You drive home, you pull in your driveway, and you think, I don't remember anything about the drive. I can't remember what cars I saw, what roads I turned on, nothing. And sometimes we have that question in our head. Was I really there? Often, a lot of people will file that as tired or distracted. I have a little different reading because I don't see it as a lapse of attention. It's a skill working exactly the way it's intended to work. In the comments, if you've experienced this where you drove somewhere and you got there and you got out of the car and you had no recollection, just drop a yes. We're going to put a pin in this. We'll talk about it more later. Because when we go back to it and we go through this a second time, it's going to have a bigger meaning, different meaning. So when I was in the military, and anybody that's been in the military can appreciate this, there was a single purpose for everything we did. That purpose was actually underneath what we thought the purpose was, right? We're training this for that, we're training this for that, but there was an underlying process. And that purpose was to install automatic action. You run the same movement until you don't even have to think to do it. Your hands know, your mind is free, your body just acts. And there's an important reason for this. And that is, in a real situation, your rational mind goes offline. That's when the training fires. In elite units like SEALs or Rangers, etc., they take that even farther. They're not deciding, they're executing from something that's installed so deep that thought never even kicks in. And that's not a defect. That's exactly the point, because that is what keeps you alive and keeps your team alive. Now, the same thing runs in all of our lives. The difference is often we're running that program and it wasn't designed and it was never given a stop command. That's what getting good really means. It means you don't have to be fully there in order to do that thing. That's not a side effect. That's the reason. The more competent you become, the less of your presence is required for that thing. Presence is expensive. Therefore, as soon as it's not needed, It quietly exits. Here's my own personal example. I was editing my wife's book. Somewhere in the middle of that, I got into a state I could only call it machine mode. It was control D, blah, blah, rhythm, same errors, same fixes, flying through just like a machine. And it was clean. There was a question, though, that came up for me later, and I want to be honest here. And I had to get honest with myself. Was I reading the text, or was I just processing a document? These are two different things that can happen in the same spot, the same situation, doing the same task. One, she gets. The other, she doesn't. I couldn't tell you where the line was. What there wasn't a moment where it's like it just switched. It was simply fluency and then distance that I was transported to because of that fluency. Good morning, Liana. Thank you for joining. Happy Monday. All right, so the big question. What does this have to do with identity? Because that's where I work. If you've heard me speak, if you've seen me on stage, you know I'm about identity. Here's what I think. A lot of people in this room have built a self-concept around being the capable one. I can handle it. There's no need to check the work. And that identity has been winning for years. But have you ever looked at the cost that comes with it? How every area you master becomes something you no longer attend to? And the more that identity succeeds, the more of your life runs without you in it. You didn't choose which parts of your life should run with you. Competence did. And that same competence doesn't know when to stop. So it chooses everything. Everything you do repetitively, you've done it over and over and over. You've gotten better at it. It just runs automatically. It doesn't have any boundaries. It doesn't have any guidelines. And good morning, Christy. Welcome. That's why reaching the goal, getting to that target revenue, the KPIs, whatever, for a lot of people, it just feels hollow. The achievement was real. It was you did the work, you got there, you succeeded. But were you in the car for most of it? Dave, aloha. Welcome, welcome. Happy Monday. All right, let me look through, see if there's anything I need to address before I go on to the 2 chairs. Life's a road trip with toddlers. Rob, thank you for sharing your identity, which brings up another question, Rob. Is it identity or is it role? And those two often fuse. I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong, but they often fuse. Glad to have you all here. As usual, your presence is appreciated. Thank you. All right. 2 chair exercise for today. In chair number 1, the expert. Right? All of us can look at our life and the things we do, and there's at least something that we're really good at. We could consider ourselves an expert at it. That version is reliable. It's fluent in what it does. Exactly, Ashif. Audit and edit. It's done the thing 1,000 times, can do it again right now, half awake, eyes closed, one hand tied behind the back. It sounds like this. I've done that 1,000 times. I could do it with my eyes closed. But I want you to listen carefully here. This is where most people get it wrong. The expert is not lazy. It's actually very skilled, which makes it hard to see. Output is good. The results, they speak for themselves. Probably nobody's complaining. Welcome and happy Monday, Lisa and Leslie. Thank you for being here. That's the trap. There's no failure signal. Nothing is broken. There's no signals, there's no signs. Chair 1, chair 2, is the one who came back. Same person, same skill. Nothing's lost. Very fast at doing the thing. The difference, and to harken back to Ashif's comment, this one returns the attention on purpose, looks at situations, finds the ones that shouldn't be running in automatic, should never have been switched to automatic, and returns, decides to be present. I'm not going to sell you something that doesn't exist. Chair 2 is not a permanent state. You can't stay there indefinitely. It's a return you keep making because you care about the thing. So our normal question, we're not pitting one chair against the other, saying which one's better. The expert has value, has purpose, you need that version. So the question is, which chair are you sitting in right now for that thing that you're going to do next? Bill, welcome. Not just in family, Rob. Family is definitely a place that we need to put our focus back in, put our presence back in. But there are many, many other places where we need to do this. All right. I'm going to make this really easy today. Tell me in the comments tomorrow morning the one thing that gets handed back to you and you have to be fully present. No relying on autopilot, no muscle memory. The question is, does it feel like relief or work? Once again, tomorrow morning, you take back one thing in your life. You have to be fully present. Does it feel like relief or work? One word, relief or work. That's all I'm asking. If you feel like it, what's the one thing? But not required. Leslie, very, very true. I actually heard it as three versions, right? Once I heard it decay, which would fit with disintegrating, or renovation are the two extremes. So growing, renovation, rebuilding, not rebuilding, renovation. Decay matches with Leslie's disintegration. There's a middle state that we often sit with. Good morning, Omar. And that's what we call maintaining. And the way I learned a long time ago is maintaining is just trying to slow down the decay. Right? So our goal is not maintaining, it's not being in, getting out of decay, not focusing on maintenance. How are we renovating? How are we growing? Very, very good. So just a few shares here. Rob says work. Christy says work or job. Being more present in our inner circle, right? Even, right, your inner circle might be in person, it might not. How many people, myself included, are on a Zoom call and we're not even fully present for that? We're kind of listening and we're checking our email or whatever on another tab. You can see it anytime you're in a room with multiple people on screen. And we could probably automatically assume that if they're off camera, they're not present. I don't want to be mean, but right? If we're off camera, it's because we don't want people to see what's going on. We're not fully present. I could even say this. How many times are you present in the audience where you're not on camera where you're just kind of listening along. Maybe you're doing some work, you're taking care of things at home, you're checking your email, you're drafting your next post, whatever. Maybe that's important to be present. Maybe it's not for you. I can't tell you that. I'm not your boss. You have, as back to Ashif's comment. I love Ashif. Ashif doesn't say a lot, but when he does, it's powerful, right? Yeah. Rob, what are you going to shift? Choose one little thing to stop maintaining and moving into growth, reinventing, renovation, health. Yeah. And the later we get in our life journey, that becomes a bigger concern, doesn't it, Leslie? Well, and triggered by the label, you know, I believe nobody triggers me. I choose the triggers, right? If I say, "Oh, it triggers me when whatever," it's not the thing. It's my processing of that thing. And I'm the only one that can change it, right? Exactly, Christy. You know, being no TV, no computer, no distractions when we're interacting with someone. We do it with friends, we do it with loved ones. It's a lot easier for some reason. Do we do it with our colleagues at work? Do we do it with our business contacts? We're in a world today where presence is feels like a lost art. And I saw a video by Simon Sinek, and he made a comment, right? How many times do you have your phone like this and it's just like this? You're not looking at it, you're not open, it's not even, you know, actively using it. But Simon shared just the fact that this thing is out there, you've already broken the presence with that person. Put it away, put it out of sight, close the lid on the computer. If your computer's there, step out away from the computer so you can be more present, right? I know we carry these things everywhere, right? Put it away, put it in your pocket, put it in your purse, whatever. Yeah, and sometimes we can hear it and sometimes we don't, right? Um, my new house is, oh, I'm on the wrong microphone. That will probably change things. Here I am talking to this thing and it's not even picking up. All right. So let me go back to my notes. All right. It's audit and edit. If it's something that I feel I need to be more present for, and I feel like I'm just kind of arriving somewhere and I don't even know how I got there, what can I do? Right. In the driving thing, I intentionally look for things to notice so I can be more present in the drive. The competence still takes over and runs the show. That's the way we work. All right. So the reframe here is probably not what you were bracing for. As I just illustrated, we're not trying to never run on automatic. If you had to think through every little thing, especially those things you're good at, you'd be exhausted in the first hour. So, automation, our automation, not necessarily talking about, computer automation, personal automation is a gift. It gives you more capacity for what really needs you. The problem is when that automation went outside mechanics and entered into meaning. Conversations with our spouse that went automatic. The way you lead your people, not your calendar, you're leading. Your personal relationship with your ambition, is that on automatic? Are you still chasing, but you stopped asking what for? Who signed off on that? My guess is nobody. Competence made the call all by itself, because that's what competence does when it's unsupervised. So, an honest question here is not where are you absent? It's which of those absences did you authorize? Some, they're intentional. Intentional. That's fine, because mastery allows you to operate like that. But how many things have happened while you were doing good work? And I want to say this very directly because I know how it can land. You might be running an inventory right now to find all the places that you've been gone. Don't turn that into evidence against yourself. Doesn't mean you're a bad partner or a fraud. Definitely doesn't mean that you don't care. It just means you got good at it. Drift is what expertise looks like from inside. And it happens to everybody who gets skilled at anything. Everybody notices it late. So don't beat yourself up for noticing it late. That's what's available. That's the only thing that's available. And if you're doing it right now, great. Drift is normal. Staying gone, that's where we have the choice. Annie, glad to have you. Leslie, you share addiction lie cigarettes. Not sure what you mean there. Leslie shared this. Exactly. Verbalizing it, speaking about it, the trigger starts to weaken. So let me going back here. Right? So as going back to the same two words, audit and edit. Make your own decisions. What are the things you know you need to go back to and be there? All right, back to the driveway or the parking spot. You pulled in, can't remember anything about the drive. When I asked that at the beginning, you might have heard it was about the drive. That might be what you decided. It wasn't. How many places have you been arriving all year long? The ones you worked hours and years and lots of effort to get to. The question is here, how many of those were you in the car noticing the scenery? That's a whole nother discussion, Rob. When we know that things need to improve, that need to change, but we don't do it. Simple answer, there's something about making the change that we would have to admit, or it will bring a feeling, and so we avoid it. And the other thing, I just talked about this on the podcast last week. The podcast that I paused for 10 weeks. 10 weeks I paused it. And it's loops. Nicole, welcome. Glad to have you. We like, as our mind likes to close loops. So that's why we like task lists. We can check them off. Loop closed. I read something to my wife recently about cooks and bakers who stop every 30 minutes or whatever and clean up, right? They make something, they wipe the counter immediately. They go to the sink, they do the dishes, the 3 dishes that piled up in the work they've done. It's not because they're neat freaks. It's not because they're whatever. They're closing tabs, right? They're closing loops because for them, that pile of dishes, that mess that's there, it's an open loop. It's an open tab that they're not actively using. So we will do the things that we can close the loop. They're easy. We get them done. End of day, you can check it off. Done. Those things that take a month, 60 days, 90 days longer, those are open loops. An easy way to not have an open loop is don't open it. Right? It's also why I was speaking to a cardiologist in Japan, and he said, I don't understand why I can have a patient that had the most drastic bypass possible. Right? I don't know if it's quadruple or quintuple. Like, I don't know how many bypass levels they can do. But he said max level bypass on someone, but they won't change their diet because it opens a loop that you're not going to see closure quickly. Right? Why do we indulge in junk food and things that we know are bad for us? Because they take years to show any effect. Why don't you eat poison? Why don't you pull something out of the fridge that's growing and eat it? Because it will have an immediate effect and you know it. Anybody who's ever eaten at a restaurant and gotten sick afterwards, or traveled to a foreign country and got what we call in Mexico Montezuma's revenge, You know what I'm talking about. You know the loop that closes immediately. And the next time you go back out, you don't make those decisions. I took a trip to Mexico for my visa reset. All by myself. I went, booked a hotel, was walking around, I was hungry, grabbed some street food, got back to the hotel room, violently ill. I've been back 2 or 3 times to Mexico. I don't eat street food anymore because I don't want to feel like that, especially alone in a hotel. So a lot of it is this, it's the loops, right? The loop that you can close quickly, you'll do it easy. But if it takes longer effort, it's a harder loop. It's an open loop. And unless it's got some major priority, you won't even open the loop. I want to leave you with this. And I'm not like, I would rather have you take this into the week and process this than to drop an answer in the chat fast. Here's the question. Where did you get so good that you left? If you feel like something moved while I was talking, you're not sure how to name it, that's a signal worth following. I offer identity clarity calls, one call, one conversation, no further requirement. I sit down with you. We can look at what you've built, who you believe you have to be in order to deserve that, and find the gap. Because you can't build a bridge if you don't know where the gap is. Simple link. I'm going to drop it now. getidentitydriven.com/clarity. No obligation, no pressure. If you felt something move and you want to talk about it, look at it, I'm here. I'm happy to have a call with you. Additionally, as usual, I like to open the stage. So let me open that up. I said quadruple. I think quadruple is the max, Nicole. But I know medicine. I know the procedures that doctors can do keeps advancing like everything else. So what I'm saying is this cardiologist said the max level and people don't change. Like, we're talking people that are lucky to be alive and they don't change because they don't want to open the loop. There's not an immediate win. Right? This is why I think it was in Atomic. I don't remember if it was in Atomic Habits or another habit book. Because there's 2 really good books on habits. But one of them said, start small. Do some micro habit that you can win at. Right? Since Nicole just chimed in and she's, guiding brilliant writers, and we've been working on the book Men, Money, and Mental Health that's coming out hopefully soon, sometime next month. And actually, this week, I don't remember which day, look at Nicole's feed. She's bringing on, I think it's tomorrow, Nicole. You can confirm that she's bringing 3 of the authors that are part of this project. So she's going to bring 3, I think is what the target is, so that they can share their story, their journey of writing it, etc. I believe I scheduled mine for next week, but I know she's got one scheduled. I believe it's for tomorrow. And like I said, check her feed. You'll see the post. So the link's out there. And so going back to my closing question, where did you get so good that you left? I've shared a few of my own stories. But let me share another. So I would say well, it's hard to pinpoint one because I've worked so hard. I'm constantly working. I'm constantly auditing, editing to let autopilot run when appropriate. And so I can't, I didn't prepare for this. I'm trying to go off the cuff. And so I can't I can't think of a story that jumps into my mind. So most of the answers when I asked the relief or work, they were work. That is a lot about the carrying something. We carry something. What's the skill that has got you through that hard season? And ask yourself, is it still needed? Thank you for that, Nicole. Take the step, whatever the step is that you need to do. Get more present. Take the steering wheel. Be more aware in that situation. I want to thank everyone for being here and for whatever measure of presence you held while you were here. Because isn't that the whole point of what I just talked about? So, in closing, come back to something this week. Pick one thing. And I'll see you next Monday.
In the shadow of a mirror, where the past holds tight, he walks in with fire, igniting the night. A truth seeker's vision, he shines through the black, time to break free from those chains of doubt. With his voice like thunder, he calls us out. This is the awakening. The rebels arise. Feel the storm within you. It's time to defy. We're breaking the silence, tearing the walls with the identity disruptor. We answer the call. No more hiding in shadows. We step into light. We rebuild ourselves. Empower.